So basically what we are going to be doing, I'll be showing you how the solution was obtained. So we are told that this one is our Q and the V2, ball V2 is the target. Okay. So from that information, if you are told that this one is the Q, this one is the target, which means after I hit ball 1, the speed or the initial momentum is going to be split. Momentum, it is mass times velocity, is going to be split into two balls. Okay, it will be ball 2 and ball 1. Okay, but in our scenario here, from the diagram, it's a bit different from your question in such a way that they just made it a vice versa. Instead of now having ball V2 is there in the assignment, and now V1 is here, and in the assignment they said this is 35 in the assignment. Okay, so if this is 35, that is V2, V1. Those are the only things that have been just changed. So I said you can still put the 30, replace the 37 degrees with 35. Okay, so that is what you are supposed to be doing. You replace the 37 degrees, it should be 37 to 35. Okay, so let's go to the solution, then I can explain to you the solution here. So from our solution we can see that from momentum, mass times velocity initial of the cube, it was hit by initial velocity, and that initial velocity is not 0, but the initial velocity of the target is 0. That's what you must take into account. And also that momentum is changed into momentum of two balls now, which means ball 2 will move with the mass and velocity at a certain angle, and also ball 1 will go in a different direction at a certain angle. It will split in this way. Okay, this is my ball. I'm going to hit this target. So this target will move this side to sink at an angle of 37 degrees. So by the time this target goes this side, also ball 1 goes that side with a certain momentum. Okay, mass times velocity final, mass times velocity final. This was the initial mass times velocity to come and hit the target here. Okay, so that is the explanation there for now. All right, so let me so here you can know, you understand that if we divide by m both sides, cancel m, we will be left with u1 is equals to v1 plus v2. That's what it implies from this equation. Okay, but if we say u1 squared, what does it mean? u1 squared means u1 times u1, which is correct. So mathematically u1 squared is u1 times u1. So if I replace this, which is here, then in place of u1 I put v1 plus v2 in place of u1. I put v1 plus v2 in place of u1. Okay, I will get u1 squared. So simplifying this equation by expanding the two brackets, you know how to expand the two brackets. Okay, here they say the first terms multiplied together, you get v1 squared. Okay, the last terms multiplied together, you get v2 squared. Then the middle part, v1 times v2 times 2. That's how you expand this bracket. Now, according to kinetic conservation and kind of kinetic energy, we know that half mu1 squared is equals to half mv plus v2 squared, which means the kinetic energy before should be equal to the kinetic energy after. So we have two equations. For the momentum before is equals to the momentum after, and the kinetic energy before is equals to kinetic energy after. Conservation of kinetic energy. And again, if you divide half mu both sides, you'll be left with u1 squared is equals to v1 plus v2. Already you have your u1 squared there. All right. And u1 squared, you already have it there. And you want to replace it here. So this v1 plus v2 squared is this one. You replace it, you put it there as it is. Half m cancel. Then you have v1 squared plus v2 squared, which is that. Now this part is coming from here. This part is coming from here. Okay, so you come, you replace it with there. You come, you replace it there. Okay, then you solve the equation. v1 goes to the left hand side, then it becomes 0, because v1 minus v1, v2 minus v2, it's 0. So 2v1 multiplied by v2 is equals to 0. So what does that mean if it's like this? In other words, at this step, what it means is simply, all right, what they mean there is, they mean, if you are to simplify that, we have v1, v2 dot v2 is equals to 0. All right, v1 dot v2 is equals to 0. So what does it tell us about this angle, about the angle between v1 and v2? If the dot product of v1 and v2, what will it tell us? So we know from dot product, cos theta, which is this one, is equals to v1 v2 dot theta. All right, for example, if I say v1 dot v2 is equals to cos theta, which means the dot product, if it's perpendicular, which means it's AB, V1 V2 cos theta is equals to 0, which means these two are perpendicular. There will be a 90-degree there. If this is V1, this is V2, so there will be a 90-degree this side. That's what it means if it's cos theta is equals to 0. So from this point, we have V1 dot V2. V1 dot V2 cos the angle between them. What is the angle between V1 and V2? Is this angle. Okay, that is the angle which is between them. So the whole angle, it will be coming from 37 plus theta. This is the angle between V1 and V2. That will be the angle. So cos theta, V1 multiplied by V2 cos theta will be equals to 0. So what we want to find out, what is this whole angle? That is our question. So we come there, we say V1, we come there and say V1 V2 cos the angle between V1 and V2 is giving me 0. It's coming from this explanation here. Because when you divide by 2 both sides, you'll be left with V1 dot V2 is equals to 0. So from dot product, you know that V1 V2 cos the angle between them is equals to 0. Okay, because you have been told already, which means cos the angle between them will be equal to 0. All right, so now what do? You divide both sides by V1 V2, which is a certain value which you don't know, and 0 divided by V1 V2 is simply 0. All right, so cos this is equals to 0. How am I going to write 0 on the right hand side in terms of cos so that I can equate what is inside the bracket? So I must introduce a cos on the left and also a cos on the right. So I know cos 90 is 0. So instead of writing 0, I say cos theta plus 37 is equals to cos 90 degrees, which implies that you can equate what is inside the brackets. Theta 1 plus 37 degrees is equals to 90 degrees. Therefore, there it was supposed to be equal. Supposed to be equal to. There must be an equal sign. Theta 1 is equal to 90 minus 37, which is 53. Okay, so this angle is the one which is 53 from calculation. So in the assignment we are calculating this one, so we are not told, so it will be just vice versa. We'll be calculating the one underneath of the target. Okay, so that's how what is happening there. So we must just know what they have changed. Instead of V1, this is V2. It's sinking this side at an angle of 35 degrees, but the working is still the same. What you just have to know is that this is now what you are given. Where in the working part, where there is 37, you just put 35 on the working part. but the diagram, this is the angle which they are referring to.